everyone. It's really great to be here, and looking forward to a nice, robust conversation here. So Simon Townsend's my name. I'm a friend of the ATC, and I'm delighted to be able to introduce Jer Langhans, who's going to be talking to you all about how he's worked with HireEZ, who I'm a big fan of, and LG, who I'm also a big fan of, to actually work some real nuts and bolts in what's really going on with their hiring. Before we get started, I'd just like to do a welcome to or acknowledgement of country. So in the spirit of reconciliation, the ATC acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and all their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to the elders past, present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. I personally am on Darug and Gurungai lands. Be great if in the chat you want to drop in where you are at the moment. So it's nice to always get an idea of where people are across this great land. And on that, throughout the chat, as we go through the presentation, Jer's got some amazing details, I said, to talk through, but it is really hands-on stuff. It's really what's happened, which I think is really important. Please, if you've got questions, drop them in the chat. He's told me he doesn't mind being interrupted, so we want to make this as interactive as possible. But with that, I would like to welcome Jer and let you. I'm going to get out of the way and let you go.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate ATC. Had a chance to go there years ago, before COVID, and came down and did an event down there. And I've followed you guys on social media and been a supporter of everything ATC does. So super excited to be back and doing this webinar. Like you said, people can interrupt us and ask questions along the way. This is meant to be sort of interactive and have like a kind of a Q&A as we go instead of waiting for the end. And I see that people are joining as well, which is awesome. I'm going to share my screen and let me know or interrupt if you don't see it. I'll take no news as good news, but let me share my screen real quick and we can get started. Also, Aiden's in chat. Hello, Aiden. I won't be able to see it as I'm, tabbing over sometimes in chat. So feel free to pop back in. But today's talk, and it won't be like a full hour. We'll get you guys out of here on time. Is going to be around how Paired Sourcing, a company that I had the privilege of co-founding back, 8 years ago now, how we help streamline some recruitment efforts, specifically around sourcing for LG Electronics. And so we'll kind of walk through every single step of the way. Thanks, Kunwar. I'm glad it looks good. Kunwar is here as well from HireEZ. And just to be super clear, so I'm a vendor of LG Electronics. And you can find me here. I'll put the link in chat for you. Aiden can post it again later. But you can find out more about us on pairedsourcing.com. But essentially, we're from America, and we have kind of developed this process which makes it better, cheaper, faster in terms of doing talent acquisition. And the only way on, it's like 100% Scouts honor. The only way that we can do this is if we partner with our technology platform, which is HireEZ. So we'll get into that. Right now, let's see if I can go to the next slide. Boom. So what we got here is just like a little bit about myself. I hate talking about myself, but just, I guess if I was sitting in your shoes, tabbed into this, maybe it's during your workday, maybe you're watching it later, and you want to spend the next, 30, 40 minutes sort of listening into, 5 or 6 kind of meaty slides around talent acquisition and specifically sourcing. I guess these are the reasons why, I'm here to give this talk today. I already mentioned that we started the company back in 2015. We came up with this idea of a sourcing sprint, which I do have one slide about what a sprint is. If anyone's done like technical recruiting or even like supply chain, I know warehouses use this, is the agile method. And so we just build it into HR and TA, this like agile method. And I'm going to talk through that. In addition to that, I've also been, had the privilege of working at 4 different HR tech startups and had exits whether as an advisor on their board or physically worked there as an employee. And before that, Starbucks and Expedia had the opportunity to run employment brand for those guys. All right, enough about me. Here's our agenda. Well, and before I get into the agenda, first things first, I want to thank HireEZ. You'll see our logo and HireEZ is here as we go through. If you have any questions for Kunwar or for HireEZ, you can ask Kunwar in chat. But I know a bunch about it as well. I've been using the product since it came out, and I'm not sure in Australia if you heard of it by a different name. Previously it was HireTool, but HireEZ is the sourcing platform, top of their class. And we got a little bit of exciting news. I'm a fanboy a little bit on a slide coming up because they actually had a huge announcement recently, which coincided nicely with this. But we're going to get into, number one, a quick overview of the sprint model. I'm probably going to talk fast, so take notes. I might tell a few stories. I might ask for people to just post up questions in chat. But we'll go through what is the sprint model. From if you've never heard of a sprint, you'll kind of get the basic, what I call the TLDR. Too long, didn't read or listen, but I'll give you the short version of what that is. And then we'll get into sort of LG. If you haven't heard of LG, that's fine. A lot of people have. I know it's a huge, multinational company out of Korea, and then we support here out of the U.S. Headquarters in New Jersey. But what did we come to with, or what did we come with to the conversation of their strategy? Like, how are we going to help streamline their hiring? That's a big kind of remit or a big task to kind of come to them and say like, hey, we can make your hiring streamlined. Well, what does that mean? That sounds great. We would love to have streamlined hiring. Number 4, the technology. We'll have a slide on the technology that's really empowering, not just when we first implemented, but every single day. Not only just getting the research and outreach, kind of the execution of top of funnel sourcing, which I'll unpack, but also the time saving of having to do that manually. And then number 5, even tracking the performance of that. So, we'll get into like, how are these tools and dashboards more than just a nice to have to look at, like a pretty thing that says, oh, 10 people responded, or, oh, you've sourced 45 people for this. But how do we go beyond that into real performance metrics? My personal, again, these are all just like my personal opinions of like what metrics I think work for us and have worked for our clients. And this whole thing is sort of a use case for one of those key clients, one of our favorite clients. And then tool predictions for 2024. It's not going to be what you think, so stick around for that. And don't worry, homework. I'm not going to actually give you homework. I mean, if you really want homework, I could probably come up with something, but it's going to just like a little 2-minute drill. If we have time, hopefully we'll rush through this and get to it. Some Q&A as well. Okay, so that's the agenda. Before I start, I'm just checking the chat. Lucy's got a nice message there. You can check out chat. Moving on, next slide. All right, so here's the real question, the most important question, as we're only like 9 minutes into this thing. As far as I can tell, and you give me the thumbs up, Aiden, are we getting GIFs? Are they animating? All right, cool, thumbs up. All right, and I just noticed too, like I can tab over and see my talking points as well, which is awesome. Thanks, Lucy gave the thumbs up too. And Simon, not to put you on the spot, but as we do each one of these meaty slides, just think about, and you can post it in chat and I can just read it, or Aiden or Lucy or whoever. It looks like we got a good group of people already coming in, but as you have questions, let's hit them in real time so I can stay organized.
Yeah, don't worry, Jeff.
Awesome. Thanks for piping in. Okay, so quick overview of the sprint model. If anyone's heard of this, here could be my first, plea to the people in this webinar is like, if you've heard of either Agile or Sprint model, let me know. I'm going to kind of pretend like, besides myself and Aiden's, been working with me for a tiny bit now. I'm going to just assume that people don't know exactly what it is. And now that I know, I can put stuff in chat on another tab. I'm going to pull up the Wikipedia. I'm sure everyone's familiar with Wikipedia. Pair programming. So when I started paired sourcing, it was kind of, as these things happen, it was kind of on a whim where we had a customer or we weren't even hadn't even started as a recruiting firm yet. But one of our first customers was like, "What are you going to do that's new?" Simon says he knows enough to be dangerous. That's awesome. So here's pair programming, and you guys can look at it later or as I chat through this. But literally, James and I, and shout out to James, we decided to take what we saw our developers do at the startup we were at, where they were pairing up literally two people sitting at one machine. You know, why are we going to code this way? What are we trying to do with this, etc. We said, well, we can do that. We can do agile in talent acquisition, or I'll say TA a lot today, but we said like, hey, we can do that too in TA. And we literally looked up pair programming before we went and had beers, to be honest, with these developers. Like, hey, we'll buy you beer and pizza. Tell us what pair programming is. And we learned all about this. And the idea was kind of these 6 steps. These are sort of in order. As I was thinking through this presentation for the last number of weeks, this was one of the last things I put in here, was just trying to figure out, how do I be super succinct in what our sprint model is? Like, okay, what the heck is a sprint model? Like, I know recruiting, I know sourcing, employment branding, excuse me, branding. I've heard these terms, but like, what do you mean sprint model? What is this? How does this fit into LG Electronics' sourcing and outreach strategy? Like, what is this, and what is this all about? I would say if you read the pair programming wiki and you just change programming to sourcing, it's essentially these things. So I just breathe some life in each one. So planning the project, first of all. Let's see if I can highlight. No, I probably can't. It's in presentation mode. But planning the project, we always go in, and you can do this if you're internal, external, if you have HireEZ or not, if you have one of the other recruiting. Most people have some sort of recruiting software, but regardless, or sort of agnostic to what technology you have, your model is not about like, oh, I can log into this and press these buttons. Your model is really your sort of business process that get the best results. And I have a slide on results later. But planning the project is huge. So we typically have a project plan that's sort of set every single time, about 80 or 90% set every single time. And then each one, I'm looking over to Aiden here, because some of our projects recently, we're just doubling down on the research side of things. We're just sourcing candidates. Some projects we have right now, part of the roadmap of what's going to be delivered is like a diversity initiative, just to be like super transparent. We've had people that are like, hey, we don't have enough X, Y, or Z in our candidate pipeline. Can you deliver that as a service? And so in Agile, whether it's programming, Agile methodology, pair programming, paired sourcing, whatever, the sprint model, once you kind of plan the project, then you're getting into creating sort of the when and what, and then planning the release. So we do a batch process where we, let's say we're going after, as an example, 100 software engineers or engineering managers for a company. We're going to, take a week or two where every 2 or 3 days we're recalibrating with the hiring manager. And the idea is, if you can, get a critical mass of talent, so 100, 200 people on a list, or 50 or 100 really good ones in the course of like 3, 4, 5 business days, critical mass in a compressed time period will produce some magical results. Like, all of a sudden they've got the emails all going out at the same time, and now they're talking about the candidates all at the same time. And so if you can pre-plan the release, and I know it's a weird word, but like how often you would send potential candidates to your hiring manager, and I'll show you this later. Planning those sprints. We do 2-week sprints, so it might be 2 sprints back to back or something like that. And then daily stand-up meetings, we have a whiteboard. If I tilted the camera, you could see it, but I won't ruin the setup here. But we have a whiteboard, and it's intentionally small. And I get up and stand there, and me and Aiden and anyone else that's working on it, Phil or Neri or anybody else, we'll have these like quick meetings, like 5-10 minutes of actual, just that's it, kind of talking about what are the priorities for the day. And then we're doing all these things continuously. So it's not like you finish planning and you're done. you're kind of looking at it as you go and continuously improving or evolving your process. And when you've done it, you know, thankfully we're excited that we've done this now hundreds of times, this sprint specific to candidates, and I'll get into that. But now we can go back and go, I call them postmortems. I think the best way is sprint review and retrospective meetings. Postmortem, something I got from Microsoft, but when I worked there, but like we look back at it and, you know, kind of pick it apart and say, what could we do better? And why did it go sideways? Or what was really great about it? And how come we're able to get more of this business, whether we're internal or external. Getting positions to work on is huge. All right, let me check the chat and get a sip here. I'm yapping good here. All right, so we don't have a crazy chat. That's fine. Let's keep going. We'll make some content. Next slide is around the historical context regarding LG. So if you're doing this later too, check out LG. Just as a little plug too, can you source up their careers page, potentially get that correct link and stick it in chat? Thanks, Aiden. But it's crazy, and shout out to them again. 118 nations, so those are countries, right? 71 unique companies. So they have all kinds of companies. They have and products and different divisions and business units. I mean, from your home appliances to robots that serve food to screens, of course, different things. Like I think this GIF is advertising the solar panel, which is wild. But like they have, you know, this huge presence, 75,000 employees, and they've been around, I'm just going to say like modern times, forever, since 1958. And I'm going to read this. Their philosophy is known as Zhangdo, and I'm probably saying that wrong, which translates to the right way. And I thought that was really interesting too, is in terms of like what's a good culture fit for us as the small little like squad of sourcers. Over the last year or two that we've been on this account, you know, we've fluctuated from anywhere from 2 or 3 people to 4 or 5 people that are, you know, dedicated to this account. And we're always striving for this philosophy. So I think it's a good match. And we've worked on different things from sales to tech, to product, to consumer, to executive, to digital. But they have a ton of positions. And gosh, we're already 18 minutes in. So I'm going to get to some of the meat of this, but we've been able to establish a way to prioritize, because you cannot source. So a misnomer is I open position, every position should be sourced on. Well, to source on 200 positions with a team of, I don't know, let's say you have 20 people in your HR or talent department, talent acquisition team, or your external recruiting firm has 20 people or 20 recruiters that you can assign recs to. That would be great. Each person only has 10. But honestly, including Starbucks, Expedia, different places, Microsoft I've been at, and in terms of a ratio, you don't usually get recruiters that only have 10 positions, internal recruiters. Maybe on the outside, and that's why we are able to focus on quality and speed. But internally, a lot of times, you know, there'll be like recruiters with 40 positions. And, you know, so if you have 5 recruiters with 200 plus positions, or 40 each, 40 positions, like even if you, and I'm just doing quick math here, but if you did like source on 8 different ones of your jobs every day and interviewed the candidates and made offers, you did that 5 days a week, you'd barely be able to like source on every single one of your positions in a given week. So it's not set up for sourcing on everything. Yes, you're recruiting and hiring on everything, but you need to figure out a way to source on just ones that need it. And that's, again, to the magic part, kind of a pro tip. That would be your second pro tip of the day. All right, so let's get into the strategy a little bit. Thanks, Aiden, for posting that. I can pin that. So just a shout out again to LGE, or LG Electronics, lg-careers.com. I'm just opening it on another tab. Yeah, 218 available positions. That one might just take you to the North America. Obviously, you can look on LG's website as well, and you can just contact us as well. But they have tons of positions, and so the idea was like, okay, we're hiring. It's not like you know, some of the other companies out there. We're the ones actually hiring, so let's streamline it and get a very effective and efficient with this. So we wanted to come, the big 3 bullets here. I'm gonna spend about 2 minutes on each. we wanted, number one, to complement their existing talent acquisition team and function. And I was just talking about like whether you have 2 recruiters on a smaller team or 200 at a huge company, or it's just the North American crew and it's a tight team of 10 or whatever it is. When you come in as a sourcer, regardless of internal, external, contractor, vendor, on-site, off-site, I don't care about any of that. When you come on to be the support person or people to work on research and outreach, to help with top of the funnel, to look for passive candidates that aren't applying, to revisit people you've put into your CRM previously, you need to come in with this vibe of being complementary. You're not there to compete. You know, if Susie Q is working on a position and you come alongside her to help her find more people, reach out to those people and make those introductions, you guys are supposed to be complementary to each other, not competing on, oh, I found them and I filled it or whatever. Now, you know, like if Aiden and I work with Aiden, if him and I are paired on a role, we can have like, oh, look at this person. Oh, this person's better. Here's why. And like compete for like a positive thing. But when you're paired up, you know, 2 people as a pair, paired up with like an HR person, or paired up with a recruiter and you're the sourcer, or you're the recruiter and you're paired up with the hiring manager and they expect you to be sourcing on this, think in terms more of complementing their strategy, team and function, instead of competing or disagreeing or saying, oh, you're doing it wrong, you need to do it this way, or you're just reading applicants and you need to only reach out to people. It's like, no, there's room for it all to complement. And so I would just challenge you that smooth is fast. And I learned this when I used to swim, and I learned that you can fight it and you can try to muscle it, or if you just be smooth is fast, and so complementing the existing function. Number 2, prioritization of small list of top requisitions to receive sourcing support. Now, the way we do that, depending on the company, the ratio, the bandwidth we have as a sourcing team, that sort of thing, that can go up and down. You could say, hey, hiring leader, because you want the person at the top to set the marching orders or prioritize. You might say, hey, hiring leader, what are your top 3? Or what are your top 5? Or me as a sourcer, I'm full-time for you guys, so I will take 10 a month. You can use them all whatever day, but you get 10 credits or whatever. But you need to have a forcing function where if you've got 200 plus positions open like LG has, ideally, you know, over the course of a month or 2, is I just want to know your top 3, 4, 5 positions. Like I want a handful that I can focus on. I don't want 40 or say all of Billy's positions. Okay, well, Billy has 22 open. Well, I don't want, that's not prioritization to just give a whole swath. Prioritization is to say, well, we're trying to do something, I'll make this up. We're trying to do something in water filtration, trying to do something in, you know, retail and online or whatever. Okay, cool. What are those roles that map? Like workforce plan, impactful stuff that if we hire someone, you know, or if it's a entire team of software engineers that look like me or a younger version of me, which is like Aiden or whatever, and you don't have any female or, you know, underrepresented minorities or something of the case, especially here in America, we can source on that. Like we can see what's out there. So prioritization is number 2, and then 3rd is implementation. So complementing, prioritizing, and implementing. Now for us, as we were looking at the strategy to streamline hiring for LG Electronics, we were super excited to implement HireEZ for 4 things, really 5 things, but the big ones were research. I mentioned research before, and that's when, and we can get into it on another call, but that's when we're getting the Boolean out and we're sourcing through and we're curating through the different candidates in there. Outreach, what kind of email templates, how are we sequencing those? And then how are we tracking everything? Because we want to be able to tell the story, not just for the cost of the tool and the attention share to implement a new strategy of being proactive and doing outbound and researching lists and sending them emails before they apply. We don't even know if they're looking, but we're going to like reach out to them and then tracking maybe in a dashboard. That brings us to here.
Yeah. Quick question about that. How do you persuade your hiring manager or your HRBP that they should be the pair, that their time is going to be valuable spent doing this with you?
Yeah. So, okay. So let me give you, that's a great question. So let me give you 2 answers. The first one is, let's say that hiring leader or hiring manager, and yeah, maybe they are a VP, they're the ones with the recs, and you're saying like, hey, I need X amount of time, we're going to do Y things. I go back to the complimenting, because them as a hiring person, and I'm not talking about another person within talent acquisition because it's our job, we should just sit down together and do this. But when you're talking about someone from the quote unquote business, you know, the vice president of sales, and you're working on a director of sales sourcing requisition for them. So how do you get the VP to sit down? Well, you say, and this is how I work, but I'm going to put in 5 to 10 hours of my time in it for an entire like 3, 4, 5, you know, maybe not 5, but like 3 or 4 business days. I'm going to spend like 5 or 10 hours of my time working on this, and I'm going to come to our pairing time with profiles, with insights report. I think I have this on the slide coming up, but I'm going to come with, you know, kind of like an arsenal of, you know, data and knowledge, and I'm kind of a market snapshot. Like, here's my TLDR summary. I think there's probably going to be a few hundred of these. I've looked through the first 50. These are 10 that I like. I don't know if they're interested or not. We're going to reach out to them. If you think they look good, can we take a look at them in real time together? And if you come like that, you're going to get a different reaction. If I come like that at LG, I get a different reaction. When I was internal at Starbucks and Expedia, if I came like that, you know, as a like a senior manager inside of HR, if I came to the table with vice presidents and higher level people even and said, you know, here's some information. Like, I know we had 300 people apply. We've only had 2 people interviewed. One was an employee referral. In addition to that, I was assigned a source. And so here's a bunch of information. And then I say, I just want 30 minutes of your time to pair up and do profile review per week. I'll do my homework ahead of time.
Yeah, got it. That's great. Thank you.
That's kind of how I looked at it in my career. The other thing is, and this one is more what I'm hearing from, you know, as a founder now and been in this business, like, you know, recruiting for 20 plus years, et cetera. I don't see this on the front lines as much as some of my team does, but they'll be like, no, the hiring manager wants to spend an hour every Monday and an hour every Wednesday with me as the sourcer. And that's like crazy. But they're really, I think in this day and age, they're more vested in making the right hires, and they're like, oh, this is like personal shopping. This is kind of fun. Like, I get to go out there and tell you exactly what I want, whether they'll be interested, whether we can get a hold of them. That's a whole nother game. That's on you, Jer. But like, they're excited about, oh, there's more than just the people that submitted an application. It's like, yeah, there's a whole universe of talent out there. And we need, perfect segue, thanks, Simon. And we need technology to make that happen, because we can't, and can I get another one of these? Sorry, I'm so thirsty. But we can't, without technology, it's just a lot of copy paste. Like, I spent the first, you know, 10 years of my 20-year career, and probably the first, let's just call it like at least 4 years of paired sourcing before these guys came out, and I got tuned in with these guys. But like, optimizing speed, it was just, we literally were copy pasting into spreadsheets, and then we used Google Docs, and that was cool, but it wasn't very fast. The workflow was a little clunky because it was kind of manual. Customization was sort of there, but scalability wasn't. You know, at one point, I think it was like 2019, we went from having like 5 to 10 people inside of a Google spreadsheet to, oh, it's all inside of an actual platform. And one of the biggest differences, and again, I'm not here to, I don't get commission. They're not paying me to say this. I did get a t-shirt for free. I love these guys. Here's a big difference. If you have, let's say you have 3 people on your recruiting team, okay? Well, if you have 3 people on your recruiting team, and let's say you're using Big Blue out there, I haven't logged into that behemoth all year. I know you know who I'm talking about, Big Blue out there. But let's say you've got your applicant tracking system, you've got your own kind of list of people that you've kept track of, and you've got 3 people on your team. Well, just the amount of like updating spreadsheets and keeping track of who's talked to who when is, you know, enough to make my brain explode. And so whether it's HireEZ or anything else, that's what we use every day. But having a place where you can track everything, report on everything, not trip over each other's toes, like it auto-magically will tell you, oh, Aiden reached out to him last week, so you can't reach out to this candidate this week. Oh, cool. I didn't have to go into his spreadsheet and look up the candidate's name and go, oh, yeah, he emailed them. Or no, it's just, It's quick, it's smooth. Remember, smooth is fast. And this is sort of a plug, but they just now kind of going into this next evolution of HireEZ. They've been very successful, and now they have CRM. So they've always been a sourcing platform, but now they're moving into CRM. And just a quick minute on CRM if you haven't used that. And it's in my summary slide coming up. But in sales, they call, like Salesforce.com is a CRM, right? They say client or customer relationship management. We use it in our space as candidate, right? Just like pair programming became paired sourcing, now we're saying CRM is like candidate relationship management, and the difference between sales and candidate relationship management is that you're offering them something. So, let's say you go out there and you try this and you sit down with your hiring manager and you get approval to email 25 people. In the course of like 2 sessions, you bring them a little sample set. Hey, can I email these? They say, yeah. Find more. You find more. You sit down a couple more days later with them, just a quick 30-minute call maybe, or a Zoom or whatever, and say, what about these people? Do you like these people? Let's bang through these. Are these yeses? Because I already was thumbs up. Are you thumbs up? And you email 50 people and you get a few that say, yeah, let's hear about this opportunity. Awesome. Well, now you've got maybe 1 or 2 that said, thanks, but no thanks. Hit me up in 6 months. I just started this. I can't relocate right now, whatever. Where do you put those? And for us, the system's just tracking that. It's just there. It's already happening. And then the AI, as you're moving people through the process, we don't have time to do a deep dive, but maybe next time, as you're moving people through from these stages in the CRM, these stages of like, they were kind of cold outreach, right? They were cold. Like they didn't know about this opportunity at LG till Aiden sent them an email. Oh, they replied. Oh, they're warm now. They replied. And this is CRM. Now that you go from warm to introducing them to the hiring manager, again, bringing value to that relationship, whether it's the head recruiter or the report to manager in the business line, but you bring them to someone on the hiring decision-making team, and you say, this person is qualified, interested, and available. They didn't apply. We reached out to them. We thought they were a fit. They replied and said swipe right too, or whatever it is. And now we're tracking all that, and we have dashboards around that. And so I would encourage you guys to think in terms of the data for your business. Yeah, I'm afraid we need to use math. This is a great one. Put something in chat. If you're just lurking and you know who that guy is in the gift, put something in chat and I'll reach out with a gift card or something. But let me know if you guys know who that is. Not you, Aiden, because I know you know. We did this slide deck together. But real quick, I know we're going to come up on time. And actually, even before I get into metrics and then tool predictions, any questions on the technology slide or anything on your side, Simon? Let me look in chat too real quick. Aiden put in my email. There's my email. I'll pin that. So you guys can go to pairedsourcing.com. You can email me, jer@pairedsourcing.com. We're down to show you guys this privately for free, like no strings. We're super open source and down to jam with anybody around sourcing talent. But any questions on the technology before I get into the metrics? I think we're doing pretty good on time.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Awesome. Okay. Next slide. And like I said, we only got a couple more slides, so bear with us. But the performance metrics for process improvement success. Speaking of being complementary, when you're implementing a new idea, and in this case, a new idea and a new technology at the same time, there's going to be certain things that you need to track for other people's benefit. There's certain things that you're going to track for your own benefit. And then ultimately, there's certain things you want to track because those are kind of aligned to a North Star or a KPI or a key performance indicator, or like the most important thing for us, even though it's down on the list, the most important thing for us is if we go source in 2-week sprint, 200 people, email all 200 people, okay? Yeah, reply rate is important. Like we need people to reply, but beyond that, what could be even ultra, like S tier quality, like the highest level, besides just like we had a huge batch, they looked good. These are the first 2 bullets, right? We had a huge batch, they looked good. We emailed 90% of them because you have to find their email address. And then the percent that replied, yeah, that's kind of the old metric. And it's super important. And honestly, it's important to LG that we have a high response rate. And luckily we do. And I'll just give you a number, like a high response rate. Like if we're on a campaign right now, and if we drop below 15 or 20%, which is huge. In biz dev, it can be 3% or less. I mean, but in candidate emails, when you're running a nice sequence with the right matching and the right branding, you should be hitting for a big brand. And the email comes from Jer at Paired Sourcing, or now Aiden at pairedsourcing.com for these campaigns. But you email 100 people, we're expecting like 20 people to respond. If you're not LG, you should at least expect half that. You email 100 people, you get 10 people that respond. Now, of those 10 people that responded, on just a real world example, 3 or 4 are going to be like, thanks, but no thanks. Let's stay in touch. Connect with me on the big blue site I don't like so much anymore. Or like, for, hey, here's my phone number, or this is a better email for me. And you put that in your CRM as a note, like follow up in 6 months, or you put it on your calendar, like, great looking software engineer candidate. Note to self, I'm going to have another client or the same client that's going to be looking for this person in 6 months. Hit them up. That's an easy introduction. But regardless, if you have 3, 4, 5 people that are saying, I'm qualified, I'm interested, I'm available, I'm so glad you hit me up, and you introduce them to the customer, to the hiring manager, the hiring leader, to the recruiter, HR, whoever, every single one of those intros is a tick, and then that's your denominator. So if I had a whiteboard, I would just pull the professor move. But let's say you have 10 intros out of 100 people that you reach out to. That's a 10% intro rate. That's actually crushing it. Let's say maybe you only had 5 people out of 200. Okay, well, that's still a 2.5% intro rate. Yes, your replied rate's going to be a way bigger number, but it's really not as important, because someone that just replied and isn't ready to go now, your business isn't going to sort of care and wait around. You can recycle those later. But think about your key performance indicator, or KPI, being, as I run these passive candidate campaigns based on my sourcing research, I spend a week or two research, I spend a week or two emailing. What do I want to really focus in on is how many that I get back, again, I'll say it a 4th time, that I can introduce into this process of maybe getting an offer or hire. Now, offers and hires, in my opinion, are not a sourcing metric. I'm going to be a little controversial towards the end here, but let's get into it. 3:37 my time, so we have been going for 37 minutes, and we have another 15, 20 minutes. We'll get you guys out of here so you can get to your next thing. Tool predictions for 2024. So I already said it, no thunder here, but if your bicycle's on fire like these guys, these crazy pair of guys on the right, if you're my age, you know what show that is, Tool Time. But my tool predictions for 2024, CRM's number 1. Like if you said, what's your number 1 tool prediction for the remainder of this year? There's still a lot of year left. It's going to be CRM. Yes, that fits into the narrative of what I'm kind of promoting or influencing right now. But also, I mean, we're working on it today. Like, what are some old people calling it the OG project? But like, what are some folks that we used to have a relationship with that we just fell out of practice? Just stopped following up. And what are those benefits that we're going to have? Well, enhanced candidate relationships. We're going to track stuff, put notes in there. Sally only prefers West Coast. Raj only wants e-commerce technical architect at big company type opportunities. Okay, cool. Just having some sort of relationship management that is not just me on a spreadsheet as an individual contributor, but as a team in a platform systematically, where we thought through the process and the workflow before we told everyone, like, these are the stages. And we told people what to put in there. So we have improved communication, not just with the candidates, but with each other, right? So like, I don't have to sit down with Aiden for an hour to learn that he already reached out to Billy and Bobby. I can just kind of see that, you know what I mean? And so we can talk about other things. And then increased research and engagement. Obviously, if you store your people for later, right? They weren't interested right now, or they didn't reply to you. These are perfect ones for 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And my understanding, Simon, you can help me with this too, as we were just talking before the show here, is like, in some industries, segments, you specialize. Like, you're just in accounting, finance, management consulting, only Sydney, whatever, and you specialize in that book of business. You probably already have a CRM on the sales and marketing side, or the biz dev or the business development side. But you need to think about how are you managing your candidate relationships, because they are, going back to the agile thing, they are the sort of product in this business workflow. And then on the day-to-day, outside of having to turn your computer on or look at your phone, whiteboard. I'm going to predict that people are going to start hanging whiteboards again, doing in-person stand-up meetings. You know, we're back to return to work or whatever they call it. You know, the issues we had were like half a decade ago now, or you know, started. I guess COVID-19 is 5 years now, 2024. So it feels like, and I'm not trying to be political, but like feels like that was half a decade ago now. So I think people, especially in recruiting teams and staffing agencies externally, having whiteboards, whether it's hybrid or whatever, but in-person stand-up meetings, I think that could be hot again. It helps with morale. It helps with mental health. It helps having diversity of thought. I'm looking at our whiteboard right now. Aiden drew a picture on it. I've never drawn a picture on a whiteboard, but he's got graphics. So we're bringing different things to it, which is super cool. And then I think taking notes is going to be hip again. This started like last year with me sending the AI bots to take notes and calls and give me analytics and stuff. But just writing stuff on paper, sitting down, and I know a lot of corporate people in chat here are doing this already, but like sitting down over a cup of coffee in the break room with the hiring manager so that it's not in a conference room. You know, it's not this dry corporate experience, but like, you know, hey, let's go play ping pong and talk about your position. Like, oh, I'll bring the profiles printed out in paper. Like, what? And so these are different ideas for tools than just thinking of buying another website with another login. Obviously, I've been promoting my partner HireEZ, but in addition to that, and kind of thinking outside of the box, putting out fires in person, like coming to a meeting prepared, and you like wrote out notes and you're reading from written out notes in front of a hiring manager. I don't care if they're the vice president of sales for a $10 million or $100 million company, they're going to respect you and think you're cool and different. And you're not just like the standard HR, TA, recruiter, and sourcers were kind of goofball nerds or whatever, but you know, you're kind of buttoned up and prepared and doing it your own style. And then the last one, and I'm going to run out of content here. I have one more slide, but pre-curated pipeline analysis tied to workforce planning. That's not a tool. I'm going to challenge everybody out there. If you've heard of a tool that does that, and I'll give you a quick definition, but let me know, or if you have a tool that does this, is I want to, and maybe I'm riffing on the AI possibilities, but it's part product, it's part process. And as I was preparing for this, and I spent, you know, an hour or so a week over the last few weeks preparing, I'm thinking that a tool that's missing that I love to predict that someone's going to come out with is you look at all your people you've had in all your projects for a year. And you look at your hiring for next year and you say, hey, we need to hire 10 more salespeople, 5 more engineers, 2 more executives. Okay, well, we know what that workforce plan is, like a year out. I'm not talking about next week we're opening a position. I'm saying like next year we'll probably go from 200 employees to 220 and we're going to hire 10 salespeople. And like you have a plan, right, as a business. As a sourcer, I want to get that information firsthand or secondhand, but I'm going to get that information. Now I have it, maybe it's scrubbed, whatever, but I know like some targeted future casting type thing. And I can also look back and go, I've sourced for these guys for a year. I know what a year out is. I know what a year back looked like in terms of my pipeline. When I say pipeline, I'm just saying candidates, resumes in a folder, or profiles in a project stage in a workflow in your CRM. But you have this pipeline of candidates. Oh, we've sourced on 10 sales ones before. We're doing the same thing again next year. We have all these left over. Let's look and see. And this is, hopefully I leave you guys with this as something unique that you can walk away with. And shout out to ATC, thanks again, and HireEZ. But if you can go like, I already have a third of this done, and you can repurpose some of that information, email addresses you found, just contact people that didn't hit you back last year. We have the same job open again this year. Or do you know that job's coming up next year? Maybe you build those pipelines ahead of time. But having that coexistence, and I guess pair of knowing what you needed, knowing what you did before, you're sitting in the middle of that and thinking through that. I don't know what you'd call that tool, but it'd be pretty dope. All right.
It's gold.
You got a name for that, Simon? Sorry.
It's gold. If you can get it, it's gold.
Yeah, it's gold. I accidentally skipped a Q&A. Holy smokes. I almost skipped our homework. There we go. Karen, thanks for your time, Jared. Karen, thanks for coming too. I got one last slide. Don't be afraid. Don't click off yet. This should be a good one. And again, anybody that's listening in the future, pairedsourcing.com. We put the links in chat. I really appreciate everyone coming. that you can reach out to me. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm the founder of the company. So I'll just be there to like, email you back and talk to you about sourcing. I love sourcing. I've been doing it forever. Let's talk about homework real quick. And as you're thinking about your meeting, if you've got another meeting in 15 minutes time, you're meeting a candidate for the first time. I know this should go without saying. If you're new in the business or 20+ year vet like me, it'll only take you a minute or two. Just read their resume or profile. If you have the resume, like read it. Like just read it. I understand we all like to scan and stuff, but just give it a respectful read. If you're meeting a hiring manager for the first time, read the job description. I don't know how many sourcers and recruiters, I've been on calls with them as an external person helping. I've read the job description. I looked up their people. I looked at their website, whatever. Hey, Aiden, what did we talk to? Let's look at their notes. Like I prep. So do your homework. Another one for my agency friends out there, if you're meeting a client for the first time, read their website. They're not going to test you on, whatever it is their thing is, or you don't have to name drop or like, oh, I know this, or I heard about this, or I saw this about your product. Don't be weird or cringe about it, but read their website. Maybe there's some fresh news on there. Maybe you can look at their job listings and go, oh, yeah, they called me in for this one position, but I didn't know they had 20 of them. Do your homework. Meeting with anyone, check your CRM, another plug for CRM, for notes and activity. And that's it, 47 minutes, right under the wire. I think I was trying to do 50 minutes. So we got 3 minutes for Q&A. And again, thank you guys so much. Send me an email, drop your questions in chat. Simon, do you have anything you want to?
So big thanks. It's great to hear some real in the trenches stuff and actually sort of see how it's getting done. I do have a question or two, if that's all right. If we've still got a minute.
For sure, let's do it.
I'd love to know how you get your stakeholders aligned for trial. Would be the first one, or what's a step that you can take on your own that is going to help you get towards paired sourcing and agile within sourcing.
Yeah, I didn't say the P. I got a few P words, and I'll get on. I guess if I did a different style of a talk, I would have said pilot a lot. So yep. pilot. And I'll just do 2 quick stories real quick. So when I was internal, I did this pilot at 2 different companies. I might have mentioned their names earlier. But they sourcing and branding as a function was relatively new. This was years ago. So maybe 15 years ago to like 10 years ago time period. Is I went in and I said, let's just do a pilot. We're going to do it on our own time. So that took away the argument of like maybe a director of talent acquisition is like, you guys don't have time for sourcing or doing this passive. Like we got all these things and schedule and hire and put out offers, right? A lot of times they're cracking that whip. And so we would say, great, we're going to do sourcing lunch and learns. I'm going to buy, as a sourcing manager, I'm going to buy pizza with my little budget. I'm going to buy pizza and we'll have drinks from the break room. And we're going to sit down and have like a lunch and learn. Recruiters are invited, bring your rec. We'll source you 10 leads before you leave and do it together. And so, whether it's a pilot like that, where you're just like, hey, we're doing it on our own time, we're using our own little budget, we're promoting this idea, this is intentionally kind of against the grain, we're going to see if it works. And then the second thing, and this worked more at startups, is to have a champion, is to find a hiring manager that you already know is sending in a bunch of employee referrals. When they open a rec, they're like, oh, I already have someone. You identify those recruiting champions that already are kind of doing it, and then you say, great, can I piggyback with you for internal adoption? Of like, I know you love to do this. I love to do this. I'm trying to promote this new idea. Let's do this together, and throw like not lunch and learns where you get sourcing, or you pair up with people and it's just this fun environment, but like more strategically, like, hey, let's take Susie out for a cocktail and be like, hey, we want to try this new program as a pilot. And pilots always stay out. Like if it doesn't work, we rip the parachute and get out of this thing. But just do a little pilot. And then if you're external like me, to get people to do it, I do a thing called sampling. Aiden's done 2 or 3 samples this week, and it's just like, hey, but you don't have to just trust me that we have access to better candidates, both in the system and through our process of how we like collaborate and calibrate with you as an employer, as someone that's hiring. But me as an external, I'll send them like, hey, here's 10 or 15 people I sourced that I think meet what you're looking to do in terms of hiring, and then they'll see that and go, oh wow, I wish these types of people would apply. And it's like, well, we can reach out to them, see if they'd be interested. Oh, okay, cool. Wow, that's a new way to source talent. That's different than posting. It's actually the opposite. And so just doing a sampling process externally and then internally, trying to find champions or getting permission for lunch and learns where you just run it yourself, kind of guerrilla marketing style.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jer. Really appreciate it. And big thank you to HireEZ for everything.
Oh, let's link them too. I'm sorry. I'll pull up the website.
I've been a big fan for many years. And a big thank you to the ATC for actually hosting the webinar. Any other questions, please do feel free to reach out to Jer. His details are all in the chat. So I know that he loves to talk about sourcing. So absolutely brilliant to be able to do that. Other than that, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day, evening, and a wonderful weekend coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Bye, everyone.